Day 858 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzie here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So starting off, we'll take a look at those Russian losses, as currently Russia sits on more than 543,000 military personnel losses, representing an additional 1,110 in the past day. Then, as for hardware losses, 19 tanks, 26 APVs, and a whopping 66 artillery, mortar, and Grom cannons ripped off old BMP-1 infantry fighting vehicles. But that comment will make a lot more sense near to the end of the video. Then we'll head across to the map and start out in Russia as a Russian Mi-8 helicopter made a hard landing in the Irkutsk region, located in southeastern Siberia. The helicopter was dispatched to assist in controlling forest fires in the area but failed to stay airborne. And this incident, while not directly related to the war in Ukraine, does highlight the broader issue of Russia's aging aircraft fleet, with the overuse of these outdated assets becoming increasingly evident, with many reaching the end of their service lives. A March report by RAND suggested that Russian aviation will lose approximately 60 aircraft by the end of this year alone due to overuse, which is an amount that far exceeds the production rate or replacement rate, and that's even before accounting for combat losses. Take, for instance, the Russian Su-30 jet. We've seen that these have somewhat quite literally fallen out of the sky inside of Russia, because these 30-plus-year-old aircraft have a design service life of around 6,000 flight hours, just like many other Russian jets out there. Meaning that these structurally fatigued planes simply cannot be used for Russia's tactical sorties all week long, every week, without risking non-combat crashes from simple overuse. Then briefly, we head to numerous places throughout Belgorod, as there were complaints about power outages throughout the region. The power outages occurred for about a half a day, although authorities did not care to specify the cause of the accident. Then headed down into the Ukrainian map today, start off in Avdiivka actually. Since we landed right here, ideal to make a pit stop, as recent Ukrainian advances near Terny have been particularly humiliating for Russia, especially when you consider the absolutely enormous casualties they sustained to capture these positions that they just lost. Not to mention 200 plus armoured vehicles. Then headed further down on the map where I meant to go, as right here is where much of the activity can be found right now, taking place in the Pokrovsk direction, with almost 30% of the battles on the entire front line being in this sector right now. And the Russian army may as well point to us directly on the map for really what they're looking to achieve, as they continue to use their attritional meat grinder tactics to take control of the T-504 highway, a key supply route for Ukrainian forces. And then just south of here, it's almost a case of deja vu over and over again, as units of the 79th Air Assault Brigade in the Novomikhailivka district repelled Russian assaults, destroying 7 BMPs along with their infantry. Some Russians managed to take shelter in a house, but Ukrainian aviation subsequently eliminated them. And it's truly every first or second day that this type of repelling of the Russian forces is occurring in this exact region. And it's not as big as, say, on the Volodar or the Avdiivka level, but it is just as consistent, if not more consistent. Then headed south on the map as Russian air defenses were active all the way over in or near to the Kerch bridge overnight, as a Ukrainian missile strike reportedly occurred in the much lesser known Shelkino district, approximately 50 kilometers west of the Kerch bridge. And it's not an unexpected place for the deployment of Russian forces, as just immediately south of here is the known whereabouts of Shahed-launched drones by Russia, which gets fired on by the AFU from time to time. Then taking a look around on the map, as somewhere in the east, we saw the damage to another Russian Tor air defense system by a Ukrainian FPV drone, then also the destruction of the Russian Ural truck in the Donetsk region. Add to that, we saw the destruction of a Russian tank and armoured fighting vehicle. And of note, lastly, the Ukrainian aviation launched high-precision French-supplied Hammer glide munition strikes, the AASM-250 Hammers, on locations of deployment of the Russian forces on the southern front lines of the Donetsk region. Then headed across to the news, and starting off with some hardware news updates, as Ukraine has been manufacturing their own flight controllers for their UAVs, produced from scratch under the Ukrainian manufacturer that goes by the name of Stellar. And with these examples, you can even see the Ukrainian Trident coat of arms logo on the chipboard. So the reason for manufacturing these chips is because the controllers are instead custom designed chips for the Ukrainian military for specific use cases in mind, as the existing Chinese chips have been found to not be fit for purpose, with drone operators finding them to be simpler in design with defects in the way that those ones operate. So it's all about customization, stability, and the performance of the chips used, including the upgraded capabilities for target recognition, autonomous tracking, autopilot features, faster millisecond response times, all requests from the AFU drone operators, and all of which works within a very fast feedback loop timeframe that is not tied up or slowed down by any bureaucratic process. Which, by the way, is a complaint that Russian UAV operators have regarding their own received drone equipment. Then headed to some Russian hardware news updates. So some manufacturers for the Russian army recently uploaded some footage of their latest cutting-edge military transport gear. This time it was maybe half a dozen or so motorbikes with sidecars installed. But if anyone's being honest with themselves, these look more like coffins, if anything. And one such coffin even had a Medivac symbol on it. But I cannot even tell you how much that symbol will be peeled off or disregarded. Because Russia's latest tactics in frontline warfare have even less of a regard for the life of their own soldiers than they did before, if that's even possible. As Russia's latest tactics involve using motorbikes to storm across open fields, attempting to reach the Ukrainian positions, usually trenches, on the other side. And if they're lucky enough to reach those positions, they throw down their motorbikes and start shooting. It's truly a kamikaze style of operations that Russia would set itself up on an industrial scale for if it could, and possibly will try. And everything about this gives off World War I or World War II vibes. In fact, these motorcycles are the M72s, which is a Russian version of a German World War II motorcycle, the BMW R71s. With the M72s produced in Russia between 1942 and 1967. All fixed up and spray painted olive green to make it look proper military. And of course, not one single iota of protection either. Then in some more news, Huawei, a major Chinese technology company, is suspending operations in Russia due to the ongoing war in Ukraine and associated economic sanctions on Russia. With initially reducing smartphone shipments to Russia in March, Huawei is now preparing to close its corporate office, which handles telecommunications and networking equipment. The company has ceased taking new orders and has plans to relocate Chinese employees and even some Russian specialists out of the country. That's called brain drain, and it's happening a lot within Russia for various reasons. As such, Huawei's departure could significantly impact Russia's telecommunications infrastructure, as it currently accounts for about 33% of all cellular base stations in the country. So this decision is largely influenced by US sanctions and export license restrictions. And Huawei themselves, having previously faced difficulties due to US sanctions, is largely trying to avoid further complications. While there's no immediate change in the consumer goods segment, including smartphones and tablets, future operations in this area may also be paused to avoid conflicts with Western countries. After all, if you're an international tech company and you're going to choose Russia or the rest of the globe as your customer base, then it's a fairly easy choice when you're already towing the line. Then headed to another Russian military mobilization blunder segment, as in Russia's southwestern Samara city, wounded soldiers are being sent back to the front lines. So as per this video, one such soldier stated that one has a broken leg, another has a broken arm, and a third has shrapnel still in his body, as they complain about going back in such health conditions. And you may have also noticed the sign on the bus. It says CBO, that's technically SVO, or really an acronym for the Special Military Operation. So it boggles the mind that they're still referring to it officially as that. And check out this guy with the external fixators on his leg, which are used to stabilize bones and hold them in proper position while they heal. He's not even wearing both shoes. So this is really some not fit for service stuff right here, folks. It reeks of utter desperation for manpower. Then headed to something a little bit lighter, a bit more fun. So here we go. Ukraine's security service, or the SBU, who often perform their investigative duties to protect Ukraine from various internal and external threats, uploaded a photo of one of their most recent deal-ins, blurring out the faces as per usual, but also going as far as to protect the identity of that frisky little feline down below as well. Ah, what a nice touch. Then headed across to a quick funny to round it all off for today, guys. And it might be a little bit of an off-brand funny, but here we go, because in this latest example, I wouldn't even call this low-tech, but something else altogether. As the Russian army made an improvised artillery piece created out of the 73mm Grom cannon from a BMP-1 infantry fighting vehicle, delivered on a towed wheelbase. So we're talking some very, very short-range artillery here. Maximum effective range, 500 meters, with the option to go about 1,000 meters, albeit with severe accuracy degradation. So what they've done here is wheel it right on in, on the temporary trailer, but then set it down on a stationary position, then removing the trailer. And once again, bear in mind, doing all of this within a very short range to fire on Ukrainian positions, for something that needs additional time to set up. This is just dangerous and risky. I mean, the time to set up alone has got to be a huge concern for the operators. But most importantly, in all of this, for the Russian army to create something like this means that Russia is running out of artillery systems and even mortar systems, as they have now been forced to strip clean any functioning parts from old Soviet IFVs produced in the 60s. And problematically for myself, Juzzie, it's losses like these and others that completely upend how the count for the artillery loss figures at the beginning of my videos gets somewhat skewed in the numbers. But as for this latest edition, here it is, folks, the world's self-proclaimed most modernized army, with no Western analogues in sight. That is for darn sure. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Please continue to like and comment, and I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers.